Good morning, everyone. Joined by the Lieutenant Governor. The Lieutenant Governor and I just completed a telephone conference call with the MTA and Metro North, the leadership of both of those organizations. I have the following things to report, but first let me thank all of the people who use the system for their cooperation and understanding throughout this period of time. Bottom line is they've moved from the 14th of October as a time to make a permanent connection, new connection, to the 7th. It is unclear whether that connection will be made early enough on the 7th of October to allow for restoration of service on the 7th or on the 8th, and that is an open question, but we'll keep you updated. We did have a discussion. As you know, last week I called for reimbursement to the ticket holders in Connecticut. I am quite confident that that's going to come about as a result of that call. We discussed that extensively today, and Mr. Pendergast indicated that he is going to have a discussion with his board members starting today with respect to what a reimbursement program would look like. So I'm happy that that's taking place. Now let's go back to some of the meat of this situation. As of 8:30 this morning, compared to a normal coverage or carriage of 17,900 individuals, New Haven line had actually handled 13,400, many of those having to stand while they were on the train. We also saw an uptick in the Harlem branch of about 2,500, and even on the there's one other branch that saw a increase. We also know that at least 1,000 people use the bus system as well, and that was before 8:30. So we're getting back to some level of normalcy. One other thing I'd like to report as a positive sign, there may be an additional transformer connected to the system that's down. If all goes well, that should allow for at least one additional train to be on that system at any given moment, and we're hopeful that that could be up and running quickly as that transformer work is done. Permanent fix October 7th. One other thing I want to touch upon, and that is, obviously this situation came about as a result of one feeding line being down. I have directed our own DOT, asked MTA and Metro North to do a study on the reliability of one-line feeds and what the implications are, since we now know what a catastrophic event looks like based on what's happened in New York. I don't want to see that happen anywhere else on the line, and certainly don't want to see it happen in Connecticut. I think they're going to have to develop a new protocol so that we don't have one-line feeds ever again on the system, and I've urged that to happen. With that, I'll take some questions.
Idea of when that additional transformer, you say quickly?
They're working on it as we speak, so I would hope that it's possible that that could be up and running by tomorrow morning. It will not impact the schedule. Whatever is posted, say by 5 o'clock today, will be the schedule. But if it was to come on, then they could send an additional train, because we know there are a lot of people standing, and at least in a couple of cases, trains couldn't let more people on at a particular station. So one way or the other, we're hopeful that it will have an impact tomorrow. Probably not a scheduled impact, but an additional train nonetheless, which would then be fed into the schedule. They indicated that they're up to 50% of capacity with respect to numbers of trains. They're actually above 50% capacity in number of passengers, but that's because people, at least 1,000 people were standing, it is estimated, for the ride.
Do you agree with members of the congressional delegation here and in New York saying that an investigation, state investigation, federal investigation, needs to be done into this?
Well, I mean, I think there needs to be a look taken at this thing. I think it needs to be understood in all of its iteration, in everything that's played out. I'm most particularly concerned that we learn that the MTA and Metro North learn from this experience. And so I have highlighted this issue of single connections. And I think that they need to develop, literally overnight, protocols that will not lead to any additional single feeds on a temporary or permanent basis, and rectifies those situations where there are currently single feeds. We know what a catastrophic event looks like when that feed goes down.
Wasn't there some redundancy? Hadn't they taken one off and they had to...
There is. This is normally a 2-feeder, as most of the connections on that system are, even in Connecticut. But they're in the process of modernizing and replacing those feeds. So this feed, one of the 2 feeds was down. It was not scheduled to be replaced until October 14th. It had been down for a period of time. We don't know, but I personally have a suspicion that how long that was out may have impacted this event. We don't have an answer to that yet, and yes, we need an answer to that as well.
And we know Con Ed's have worked throughout the weekend to make some repairs just to get Metro North train service up to 50% today. How much is this, if you have any indication, how much is this all costing?
This is an expensive event in many different ways. Parking facilities needed to be provided, bus facilities needed to be provided, diesel trains needed to be brought in, not only from the Metro North side or the Connecticut side, but we marshaled other resources to get to the 50%. I don't have a number for you, but I'll ask if they could provide a number in the not too distant future. But it's expensive.
When you talk about the reimbursement as well, can you elaborate a little bit on that when you say like how the program would look?
Well, obviously what we're talking about is people who buy their tickets by the week or by the month. There's a good chance that this will either be, it's a possibility it'll be a cash credit. I suspect what it will ultimately be is a credit towards future purchase. So if you had a week's ticket and you're only able to use it 3 days, then you should be compensated for that. If you had a month ticket, and you should be compensated for it. Even though, by the way, they have some level of service, we know a lot of people have been affected adversely, and a lot of people chose to stay home, thankfully, the first couple of days of this event. I want compensation for them. I'll work with MTA to find a reasonable way to bring that about. This will be the first time that that's ever happened, and I'm the first person to have called for it. I think it's necessary that it be gotten done. From my conversation with Mr. Pendergast, I think he gets the message.
Are you still asking people to stay home?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, again, if you have the option of working from home, this is a great time to use that. I'm not asking people to forego their living, and certainly with the kinds of numbers that we're seeing folks make it up and down the system, if you can delay your travel to the non-peak period, that's another good alternative. Go in a little later, stay a little later at whatever stop you're going to. That makes a lot of sense as well. People, let me say this, that people have been really good. I mean, I know there's frustration and anger, and nobody wants to ride a train from New Haven or Stamford to New York, but people have been very cooperative. Looking at our roads today, I talked to Jim Redeker, who I speak to on a regular basis throughout this. Monday, this was a typical Monday commute, as far as we could tell, in and out of our major spots, Norwalk, Stamford, and the like. So people are being very cooperative, and I appreciate it very much and thank them.
They give you a time frame for reimbursement and the issue of their newfound surplus come into the conversation?
Again, well, here, I'll tell you what they told me, what Mr. Pendergast told me. They don't have a regular board meeting scheduled until November, and he knows that that's unacceptable, and so he's going to poll the board, I believe, starting today, with respect to the willingness to approve that, and then it will be in further conversation about the actual design of that system. So let me be very clear. November's too late. I want an answer, and I want an answer quickly. And I believe that Mr. Pendergast understands that that's necessary.
Did you point out their recently reported surplus?
I didn't point that out. Obviously, it makes it easier to do things, and I think I can honestly report that Mr. Permit and Mr. Pendergast understand the gravity and the anger, and that this is not a weather-related incident. This has to be treated differently, and heard my message. He's heard the message from Governor Cuomo as well. Okay? Well, thank you very much. Thank you for being here.